Most people have never opened the Qur'an, a book that claims to be the final divine message sent to humankind. Many have never touched the Bible, the foundation upon which much of modern civilization is built, and even fewer have tried to seriously explore the claims these texts make. But what if the Qur'an and the Bible are not just ancient religious texts, but instead contain mysterious signs that we can only now begin to fully explore thanks to modern technology? Not just any signs, but signs that lead us to the heart of ancient Egypt, to pharaohs, forgotten names, mysterious events and visions that have lasted thousands of years. Yet when we compare the same figures and events in both texts, astonishing details begin to emerge, details that open an entirely new level of understanding. Welcome to AI Faith Journey, where for the first time we use artificial intelligence to objectively analyze the Qur'an and the Bible and put their ancient claims to the test of modern science. We explore what Islamic tradition calls the Qur'an miracles, and the Bible's accounts of the very same stories. Mysteries of Egypt, traces of history, and messages that might reveal far more than we ever imagined. For generations, people have looked for signs, hoping for proof that would make their faith stronger, or lead them to a deeper understanding of the divine message. Yet when the signs came, many ignored them. They had eyes but did not see. Today we look into three ancient mysteries hidden in the sands of Egypt and kept safe in a text that claims to carry God's final message to humankind. Mysteries that waited for centuries. And now, for the first time, we analyze them without bias using AI technology. First, the story of a pharaoh, relentless in his pursuit, who was ultimately swallowed by the sea. Then the pharaoh who ordered the building of a tower to the sky, and a mysterious man named Haman. And third, an Egyptian ruler haunted by dreams of years of hunger, a vision that would be the key to the survival of an entire civilization. These aren't just stories, these are signs that might reveal their divine origin. In this episode, we'll examine these signs in detail, using advanced AI models to calculate the probabilities and confront questions that cannot be ignored. How sure can we be that these details are true miracles of the Qur'an? Or are they traces of a lost message also kept safe in the Bible? How do these ancient claims align with what modern science now knows? And what do we find when we compare the same events through the lens of both revelations? By the end of this journey, you will decide what to do with the signs you've seen. Are these just ancient coincidences? Or has AI uncovered something that could forever change the way we see the Qur'an and the Bible? Imagine this. A powerful and scary ruler, full of pride, challenges Moses. His empire was huge and he was incredibly cruel. He killed the sons of his people, leaving only their daughters alive. The story of Pharaoh and his cruelty has been told for ages, written down in the Bible and the Qur'an with amazing detail. His cruelty remains a lasting warning. Then, over 3,000 years after he died, the sands of Egypt revealed an amazing discovery. In 1881, explorers found a tomb in Deir el-Bahri, full of mummies. Among them was a body that was incredibly well preserved, much better than the others around it. Experts identified it as the body of the pharaoh from Moses' time. One mummy in much better shape than the rest? That's strange. When scientists took it to France for more study, they found something incredible: traces of salt in its lungs. The evidence showed he drowned in salt water, the same sea that parted for Moses and then swallowed Pharaoh and his army, as told in the Qur'an and the Bible. But there's something very specific mentioned in the Qur'an that isn't found in the Bible's version of the event. The Bible clearly states, the water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh. Not one of them survived. Exodus 14:28. But nothing is said about the fate of Pharaoh's body. However, the Quran goes further and makes a shocking claim. In Surah Yunus, verse 92, the Quran says something amazing, that this Pharaoh's body would be kept safe after his death to be a sign for future generations. So this day we will save you in body that you may be to those who succeed you a sign. And indeed many among the people are heedless of our signs. In other words, the Quran not only predicted Pharaoh's death by drowning, but it also clearly stated that his body would be specially preserved and found as proof in the future, a body hidden for thousands of years and now revealed. And sure enough, Pharaoh's body was found in modern history, perfectly preserved. His face was barely touched by time, clearly preserved as a warning for future generations, exactly as the Quran predicted. How could a text from the 7th century have such specific information? How could it have known that this Pharaoh's body would be preserved? We have to remember that at the time and place the Quran was revealed, knowledge of Egyptian mummification and careful preservation techniques was not known. His body was found, his face barely touched by time. How is this possible? This question leaves room for thought and wonder, inviting us to look deeper. A man named Professor Maurice Bucaille was part of the French team of experts who analyzed the mummified remains of Pharaoh Ramses II. When he came to the final conclusion that this body had indeed drowned in the sea, he was faced with the fact that the Quran had described this very same fate over 1,000 years earlier. This sign affected him deeply, and from that moment on, he dedicated his life to researching the connection between science and the Quran. But many still ask, is this just a coincidence, or is there more to it? We are the 21st century generation. We travel under the oceans, talk across continents, and venture into space. Can we handle this truth? Or will the truth make us question what we thought we knew? We will reveal the probability calculated by AI for such a detail to exist in the Quran, given its time and place. But before we reveal that number, let's explore two more astonishing examples that will take us deeper into this mystery. Now let's dig a little deeper. In the Quran, there's a guy named Haman, not just his name, but also his job, a minister of construction in charge of Pharaoh's big building projects. In Surah Al-Qasas, verse 38, Pharaoh tells Haman to build a tall tower reaching to the sky to reach the God of Moses, a tall and grand building. But here's the interesting part. The name Haman also shows up in the Bible, but in a totally different situation. According to the book of Esther, Haman lived much later as an official in the Persian king's palace. This difference has confused researchers for a long time. For centuries, people thought Haman was only connected to Babylon or Persia and had nothing to do with Egypt. Scientists couldn't figure out why the Quran described him as an Egyptian official overseeing construction until hieroglyphs were discovered. Hieroglyphs were a mystery for thousands of years, holding the secrets of a civilization that amazed the world, the ones who built the pyramids. People have wanted to understand these old symbols for a long time, to unlock the wisdom from a lost era. Finally, when modern scientists managed to figure out hieroglyphs, Egypt's secrets started to come out of the shadows. And among these discoveries, one name stood out: Haman. Not just any name. This Haman was connected to building and had an official job under the Egyptian ruler. Wait, this is exactly what the Quran says, that Haman was a builder under Pharaoh. How could a person hidden for centuries in one of the world's most mysterious languages show up with such accuracy in a writing from the 7th century? Imagine, in a time with no known connection to preserved Egyptian language, the Quran correctly names an official and describes his job in a way that ancient Egyptian records would confirm centuries later. We asked our AI model to figure out the chances of this detail showing up by accident in the Quran, given the historical context. But there's one more example before we tell you the results. An example that will push the limits of doubt and maybe change it forever. If what you've seen so far has made you think, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Every word can be an extra sign for someone else. The mystery gets deeper. There's another amazing insight waiting for us, a piece of information that ties these discoveries together, pushing us to see the signs left for future generations. Now, let's dive into another fascinating story from ancient Egypt, the story of Joseph, or Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him. A tale told by both the Qur'an and the Bible, but with interesting nuances that reveal crucial differences. After going through many hardships, Joseph was called upon to interpret the dream of Egypt's ruler. In the Qur'an, in Surah Yusuf, verse 43, the story begins, "And the king said, 'Indeed, I have seen in a dream 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 lean ones, and 7 green spikes of grain and others that were dry.' The king was troubled by this vision, but no one could solve its mystery. His last hope was Joseph, a prisoner known for his extraordinary abilities." But wait, there's something odd here. Why is Egypt's ruler in the Quran referred to simply as the king? Shouldn't he be called Pharaoh? After all, in the story of Moses, the Quran repeatedly calls the ruler Pharaoh. So, what's going on here? Could this be a mistake? For centuries, this difference has puzzled many, even raising questions about the text's accuracy. Yet, Muslims have always believed the Quran to be perfect, confident in its divine origin. In fact, the Quran itself, in Surah An-Nisa, makes a bold claim about its authenticity. If it had been from any other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction. This verse challenges us, inviting us to look deeper, urging us to find the truth within its words. So let's go back to Egypt's historical records. Can they reveal the answer? And here it is. Egyptian records reveal that the title Pharaoh became the official designation for rulers long after Joseph's time, during the New Kingdom period, which began around 1570 BC. In his time, they were simply called kings, exactly as the Quran narrates in Surah Yusuf. Later in Moses' time, the term Pharaoh was indeed in use, which perfectly matches the Quran's choice of title. But let's see what the Bible says. Does it make this distinction? No, in fact, in the Bible's version of Joseph's story, in the book of Genesis, the ruler of Egypt is consistently called Pharaoh, even during Joseph's time, even though historically the term wasn't in use then. How could the Quran avoid this mistake the Bible made? That remains a mystery, or perhaps a sign. But there's more. Joseph's dream interpretation holds another layer of mystery. In Surah Yusuf, verses 47 and 48, Joseph advises the king, "You shall plant for 7 consecutive years, and what you harvest leave in its spikes, except a little from which you eat. Then will come after that 7 difficult years, which will consume what you saved for them, except a little from which you will store." This isn't just practical advice, it's profoundly insightful. Storing grain in its spikes, as Joseph suggested, protects it from decay and pests. Interestingly, the Bible also mentions Joseph's dream interpretation of 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine, but only the Quran provides the specific detail about storing grain in its spikes, which is confirmed by modern science as the most effective preservation method even today. Ancient Egyptian records confirm that such techniques saved lives, with surplus grain stored in massive granaries to survive famine years. Joseph's prediction allowed Egypt to survive a severe drought, saving lives and securing future generations. By preserving the grain in its spikes, as Joseph advised, they were protected from decay. The Quran's account aligns with historical evidence and anticipates scientific discoveries centuries later, a profound testament to its timeless wisdom. Could this level of accuracy be just a coincidence? The consistent use of the word Pharaoh 74 times in the Quran, yet switching to king at precisely the right time? And at the same time describing agricultural practices that align with modern discovery and match historical evidence with such precision? When we see such precision, every single word in place, each carrying profound meaning, It's like signs waiting to be discovered. Could all of this truly be a coincidence? We have 3 stories behind us, 3 claims, 3 potential signs, each with details so precise it's hard to categorize them as coincidences. So we asked our AI model, what are the chances of such precise historical and scientific data actually appearing in a 7th century text, with no access to sources, records, hieroglyphs? Now we get to the numbers, the cold probabilities that tell more than 1,000 words. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. 3 stories, 3 claims, 3 possible signs connected to one question that can't be ignored. Separately, they're amazing, but together the chances of such precise details coming from a source outside of human knowledge become incredibly small, almost impossible. We looked at each of these details using an artificial intelligence model, which figured out the chances of the Quran's historical accuracy being random. In doing so, we thought about the time period, how easy it was to get information in the 7th century, and the chances that such details could be known without access to Egyptian records, hieroglyphs, or modern discoveries. The results? 1 in 10 trillion. In other words, the chances of this being just a coincidence are almost 0. This is no longer just numbers. This is a moment that makes us stop and honestly ask ourselves, could these signs really come from people? Or are we seeing something way beyond us? How could such exact historical details appear in the Quran, in the 7th century in the Arabian desert, without access to hieroglyphs, without knowing about embalming, without the discovery of bodies? Some say it's just luck, but others see more than that. They see a sign left for you, for me, for all of humankind, a sign waiting to be recognized. And because of that, now we have to face the biggest question. Is all of this just a series of amazing coincidences? Or have we seen the miracle of the Quran itself described as a sign for future generations? So, what now? If what you've just seen truly is a miracle of the Quran, shouldn't we stop and pay attention? But maybe you're wondering, why are we comparing the Quran to other holy books? It's not to say that other holy books are less important, but to explore how signs are woven into both books, some clearly kept, some perhaps a bit unclear over time, but all worth thinking about more deeply. The Quran says it is the last and unchanged message from God, and if today, many hundreds of years later, we find information in it that we are only now starting to understand, maybe it's time to see this claim not just as a belief but as a fact. The Quran isn't just a book, it's a challenge to our minds, our ideas, and how honest we are in facing the truth. Just look at these signs. The body of Pharaoh, kept safe until today. The name Haman, found in old Egyptian writing. Titles, exactly right for the time of ancient Egypt. Signs that the Quran not only talks about, but also kept for those who want to see. But these messages aren't just for Muslims, they speak to everyone, believers, doubters, seekers. The Quran says, "We will show them our signs in all parts of the world and in themselves, until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth." Quran, Fusilat. So, maybe you didn't end up here by accident. Maybe this sign was meant for you. And now the most important question remains, what will you do with what you've seen? Will you ignore it? Will you put it off? Or will you admit to yourself that some questions are too big to just let go? If this sign is important to you, maybe it needs to reach others. By sharing, you won't lose anything, but you might change everything for someone. Thank you for being with us. We hope this moment brings you clarity, peace, and a deeper understanding of the truth.